Okay, welcome back. And in this one, we're going to go over doing some basic setup and usage of Coder if you've never used it before. If you have, and I guess you can skip this one, but if you haven't, let's dive into it. So this is Coder, and the whole idea is it's going to create development sandboxes for us. So what we need to do is we're going to create templates. It uses Terraform behind the back end and to create and assemble these Docker container images for us that are going to install our remote development environments and launch them for us and so on and so forth. So the first thing we need to do is we need to actually create a template. There's a lot of boxed ready-made ones for us, and that's what we're going to start with and we're going to modify. You can do them on cloud, you can do them on Kubernetes, all kinds of stuff. There's tons of these things. I'm just going to do basic Docker containers. I'm going to keep all of this normal stuff and we're going to modify it. So, a general description, a name, some what it's going to display. You can pick emojis and icons and so on and so forth. We're just going to save that. It's going to start the build of this template. And basically, it's going to code check it and sanity check it and lint it and all that kind of stuff. So, here we are for this template. It's before we're going to publish it, or it actually has been published, but we're going to make some modifications and then republish this thing. So I got to make some changes for this to be really functional for us. The first change that I want to do is I need to get this properly attached to our dev environment network. Otherwise, it's going to attach to host or bridge by default, and we won't be able to. It won't talk. It'll basically be orphaned from the environment. So what we're going to do is we're going to go all the way down here in Docker Container Workspace. So right here. I like to put this thing kind of between this env and this host block. This is all Terraform, so if you want to deep dive into any of this stuff or make further configurations and tweaks, you can go find all these different resource definitions on Terraform site and hack on it to your heart's content. You got to actually click edit to go into the editor here. And so I'm going to scroll all the way down to the Docker Container Workspace resource. I'm going to place it, doesn't really matter where you place it, but I'm going to put it right there. And we're going to call Networks Advanced. And we're going to put name equals dev env underbar dev env. This has to be the actual name because this won't know to add the prefix. And you can check this against Docker network ls, and you can see that's the actual real name of the Docker network that as the daemon sees it. So we're going to add that in here. I like to use dot files sometimes in my work. I'd rather have the feature than not, so we're going to add the capability to use dot files. So rather than reinvent the wheel, Coder offers modules now. So Coder modules dot files. And they actually publish these on, they have a registry, and right here, this is the one we need. The nice thing is we just copy this block, and I'm going to put it, I'll put it after my data blocks right here before my first resource block. And I just got to paste it in there, and that's it. The only thing I got to do is example doesn't work. It needs to be main. As you can see that you look for Coder, what is it? Coder agent. See, it's actually called main. Whatever you call it here, just make it match. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and build. And if I didn't type anything wrong, this should succeed. Yep, all good. So we're going to publish this one and make it the active version. You can give it a better name instead of the auto-gen one, or write a message about what changes you made. I could even do that. Add to dev env network and add dot files. Whatever you want. Okay, so now we actually have a workable template. I can go to my workspaces and I can do work new workspace, whatever. So here we go. And I don't know why it has this JetBrains IDE. I didn't really add that. That must be something new with this version. I've not used this latest version before. It says it's optional, so I don't know what it's supposed to do. Hopefully it's going to use what I asked it to, which is VS Code. So we're going to call this one test. Very creative. And this dot files URL. So if you're not familiar with dot files, I'm not going to go into grand detail on them. It basically lets you automatically clone things like bash aliases and all kinds of stuff that in your home directories, different files that you have that customize your environment. So what we'll do here is I'm going to make myself a repo, and I'm going to call this just dot files and create it. Rather than, I guess I can do it the old school way. I don't know, you can just create a new file if you really want to, but we'll do it. Clone this off and, touch.bash aliases, something like that. And here, and I'm going to say, I don't know. Since I work with Git a lot, so let's say alias ga equals get add dot alias gc equals get commit alias gs equals get status. I don't know, just a few of these, whatever. Doesn't matter. Oh, wouldn't you know it? There we go. So it's in there. We go get add, get commit -m, add some bash aliases. You can do global on your stuff if you want to. I probably have to keep doing this. Get config local user.email. By the way, you can also add this in your git installation. That's probably not a bad idea. It's in here somewhere, I think, on my default Git uh, everything. My default Git settings. I don't really want to look around too much for it right now, but you can define all that stuff, and you can define it in your Coda workspaces and everything like that. So for the moment, I'm just going to do it locally. So there we go. So we committed it just fine. So git branch -m main and git push origin main. Whatever. Okay. So you can see we've got our bash aliases right here. So now, if I want to automatically clone these, all I need to do is code clone, put that in right there, and create our workspace. That thing about the JetBrains ID is kind of worrying me. That's going to install JetBrains instead of VS Code, but I guess we're about to find out. I guess what I should have done was to look at starter template. See, container, Docker containers. You can also do dev containers and stuff like that. Okay, well, hopefully it's going to do what I expect it to. You can see this is still the first time you really crank this up, it's going to take a little bit, and we could actually, Docker PS, you can see that it's trying to spin up something here. Interesting. I didn't know it would do anything IntelliJ, but I'm not using that. I'm using Code Server, so we can launch Code Server here. And here we go. We have a VS Code environment that we can do. Sure, I'll trust this is all my stuff. So, I mean, we could do set our color theme and mark everything done. Don't want that. I don't like the command center. You get the idea. So actually what we have here, this entire environment is running in this here. Let's see. So that's the image it's running, and so it'll prefix it here, and it'll make new ones. So I can launch as many of these in development environments as I want to. But you get the idea. I can clone a Git repository and all that stuff. So we can get back into maybe like how I set up my VS Code environments another time. But in general, that's how Coder works. So I can have multiple workspaces set up, and you can add where you can customize your Terraform files, where you can you can like pass in a Git repository and have it automatically clone it and all kinds of stuff. Like you can customize these to your heart's content. But for the basic usage, I think this is just fine. So one thing I'll note, just be careful about shutting down your development environment stack before stopping your workspace, because you'll kind of basically orphan it. So all I make sure to do is go to here and stop the workspace if I'm done. And that way I can cleanly shut everything down. That way I don't orphan this this Docker container. So yeah, when I stop it, it's all cleaned up, and you can see my workspace is now stopped. And you can also see it right here. Okay. I think that's really everything that I need to show for Coder. I'll certainly come back around to it and maybe show some of the features that I like to use to make it a bit more useful. Things like AI coding assistant and getting some of the extensions working, because there's some caveats about using extensions for coders VS Code that it uses versus something like actual Visual Studio Code. So there's a few caveats to work around. But anyways, for the most part, that is the process of getting the remote development environment working. So in the next one, we'll go through and start setting up a CI/CD system with Git actions, and we'll go from there. Okay, see you then.